the board and show your work each and every time. Like you're not relying on frothy emotional appeal to sell people with tickets or to like pander, but there's an actual sense of duty and integrity. Like I saw the interview with Rachel Maddow, and I like how you talked about the need to still do the right thing even though it's inconvenient.
That's right.
That's amazing. This is Ashlee Marie Peterson. Ashlee Marie Peterson, I've really only ever known her on TYT. I mean, this is TYT boosting her, giving her a platform. This is with Anna, No Filter.
And I think activism is a privilege. For me, it's just survival. What do I have to do in the world? How do I have to show up to get people to not only see me, but to take their foot off my neck so that I have greater odds of surviving? And
okay, fair enough. People taking their foot off your neck so you have greater odds of surviving, and activism is not something. My point is, TYT boosted this platform, or gave her a platform in order to speak her piece. This is a tweet. There's one candidate who stole my heart and my endorsement. I'll be explaining over the next month why Warren is a candidate to get the job done. Now, I don't know if you can go so far as to call her a surrogate, but clearly she is a Warren supporter. Let's hear this one more time. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Tickets or to like pander, but there's an actual sense of duty and integrity. Like I saw the interview with Rachel Maddow, and I like how you talked about the need to still do the right thing even though it's inconvenient.
That's right.
Now, when Warren pointed out and said that's right, that's not really right, is it? I mean, after all, Elizabeth Warren called herself a Native American for the better part of, 20, 30 years. And when the Native Americans, real Native Americans, indigenous people, are getting their heads bashed in and getting their necks stepped on in the way that she talked about it, Warren was nowhere to be found. Obama, on Thanksgiving, was essentially cutting a turkey for Thanksgiving while real Native Americans were getting their head bashed in by oil police. Warren, the person who did the right thing when it was inconvenient or didn't do the right thing when it was inconvenient, doesn't say anything until Obama comes out. Essentially, the party giving her permission to finally come out and say something about the Native Americans to which she has given herself, ascribed her nationality to. On a secondary point for Sanders, I hate to bring this up. I know this is pretty inconvenient, but in 2016, Warren did not support the person who was closest ideologically to, supposedly. She supported Clinton. What she didn't say was that she had signed a thing for Clinton going all the way back to 2013 saying she would give her support to Clinton and then turn around and lied about it. The inconvenient choice, or the difficult choice, would have been to support the guy she was most ideologically close to. And the difficult choice would have been to stand up for those Native Americans in Standing Rock that she has acclaimed or has ascribed their identity on herself to. Neither one of those situations are Warren taking the difficult choice. Both of those situations are Warren essentially taking the easy choice, going along with the party. This is a ludicrous opening to this. And I understand that people support Warren for all sorts of reasons. And I don't deem her supporting Warren. She could support Warren for whatever she wants. The reason for this video has little to do with her supporting Warren, and more so to do with stuff that she has been saying about Sanders in pursuit of her supporting Warren. Ashlee Marie Preston, come on down. You are the next contestant on the soapbox. She says she has the receipts for Bernie Sanders apparently not showing up for the LGBTQ community. Let's see if that's true. I can't contest your supporting Warren. I can't contest that at all. Those things are somewhat subjective. People support candidates for all sorts of reasons. The moment, however, you say something that can be compared to actual reality, at that point, I can compare what you're saying with whether or not it lines up with objective reality and the standpoint of truth. And this, and the things that you have been saying, do not. Welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content and you find yourself coming back often, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal Patron. This content will be instantly demonetized because that is the way YouTube rolls at this point. So I was on Twitter, minding my own business, relatively so. And I see this woman who is right here saying something utterly ludicrous about Warren.
That's
for the emotional appeal to sell people with tickets or to like pander, but there's an actual sense of duty and integrity. Like I saw the interview with Rachel Maddow, and I like how you talked about the need to still do the right thing even though it's inconvenient.
Unfortunately, that was not Warren. That was not Warren. I'm sorry. She was a corporate lawyer at one point, working for a coal and gas company, and she twisted it around as if she was taking some catch with helping the little guy. She had a fiduciary responsibility to helping that corporate law firm. That's not doing the right thing. That's not, when it's not convenient. I hate to bring up the Sanders thing or the Standing Rock thing. Both of those are instances of her being in a situation, not doing the thing that would be most in ideological alignment, but instead doing the thing that was in her political interests. Not coming out the Standing Rock, not coming out the Sanders. Both of those are damning situations, especially this Native American thing with Standing Rock. After donning the perspective or donning the mantle of an indigenous person, of a Native American, even putting it on the bar license in Texas, and then not coming out for the Native Americans. Ashlee Marie Preston attacks Sanders. She comes out and says, stop, Bernie hasn't even showed up to an LGBTQ event since the 70s. Again, I can't quibble with you supporting Warren. However, the moment that you say something that is what I can compare to actual reality, well, now we have something that we can talk about. And not just that, if you're going to make this argument that Sanders hasn't showed up since the 70s, you better be a paragon of virtue on this issue. You better be a paragon of virtue. I respond, that's a sad take. TYT gives her a platform. Interesting choice. Sanders marched with King. Understand what she's saying here. Bernie Sanders marched with Martin Luther King. This is when it wasn't safe to do so. Sanders chained himself to a black woman. You had cops dragging him away. Again, this is when it wasn't safe to do so. And her saying that Sanders hasn't shown up since the 70s. What did she get across to you is that you, at the very least, acknowledged that he was backing this community in the 70s. And I have no idea why you would think that that would change in the 80s or the 90s. The Daily Beast, who is no friend to Bernie Sanders, said that Bernie Sanders created a trans mecca in Burlington in the 80s. Transgender. The point in the article is that people in that area, in Burlington, when Sanders was mayor, felt that he made that area safe for them to live in. Not so much that he went out the way, but more so he treated them as human beings with equal rights as anybody else in the society. You have people who were saying that they were scared to hold hands in other cities, in other states. But in Burlington, not so much, because Sanders allowed that situation to be that way. That was even one of the things where they were talking about a rally that many of the people in the city council were against, but Sanders, as mayor, was for. Let's read it. Let's read it. I was impressed with the open and vocal gay community, she said. There was the monthly newspaper out in the mountains, and there were frequent protests and demonstrations with gay themes. This was a new world for me. LeMay is founder of the House of LeMay, a drag performance team she founded in the early 90s. She is also founder of the League of Drag Queen Voters. From what I understand, Sanders didn't do anything specific for the gay community, said LeMay. He just treated them like he treated everyone else. He gave opportunities, and the gay community took him up on him. Gay rights organizers had planned Burlington's first Pride Parade 4 years before LeMay arrived in 1983. Many community members and politicians had opposed it, but Sanders who was in his first term as mayor, vocally backed a parade citing the right to march as a civil liberties issue. In a memo written the day before the parade, Sanders wrote, "In our democratic society, it is the responsibility of government to safeguard civil liberties and civil rights, especially the freedom of speech and expression. In a free society, we must all be committed to mutual respect for each other's lifestyle." This was not said when it was comfortable and cozy. This was said when he was, for the most part, in hostile territory, meaning first term as mayor, he is backing something that the rest of the city council disagreed with. This is in the 80s. I had to bring this to her attention. This is in the 80s. This statement right here. Stop. Bernie Sanders hasn't even showed up to LGBTQ events since the 70s. Is flat, fact, false. It's flat, fact, false. Here's another one. I woke up to a Bernie mob in my mentions. I have several friends who are pro-Bernie. It's all love. The Bernie folks on Twitter are wild, though. Y'all talk so much crap about Warren. And when we hit y'all with the receipts, you take on this big Make America Great energy. Hashtag toxic. Interesting. So she says that Bernie Sanders didn't show up since the 70s. What about your candidate? The woman who you says take these kind of bold positions. Right. These bold positions.
People with tickets or to like pander, but there's an actual sense of duty and integrity. Like I saw the interview with Rachel Maddow, and
essentially she takes these bold positions. She doesn't need, she takes them when they're inconvenient. Her candidate, she's attacked my candidate, fair enough. But I've just showed that what she's saying here is just flat,
talked about
fact,
the need to
false, and dishonest. Even based on the Daily Beast, who again is not a great friend to Bernie Sanders. Mayor Bernie Sanders created 80 trans Mecca in Burlington. The person says Bernie Sanders hasn't showed up since the 70s. Daily Beast says he created a Mecca in Burlington, Vermont in the 80s. Flat, fact, false. And he's been backing the gay community for civil rights going back since the 70s, and he hasn't stopped. What about Warren? You're backing Warren. You say Warren takes bold positions when it's not popular. This is Warren today, meaning recent, in the recent LGBTQ debates. The debates that you're boosting, by the way. Listen to what your candidate says about the LGBTQ community, talking about transgender and whether or not they should be held for hate crimes legislation or be under hate crime laws.
You also have to protect them as what they are. Do you think that a crime against somebody who is transgender should be punished as a hate crime in statute?
I think we could if we think that's going to be the most effective way to make change. So I'm open to this. But I'll tell you what I really want. I want to just
you also have to protect.
She's open to it. What does that mean? Bernie Sanders is not open to it. He's very clear on what he wants. His answer would be yes. He wouldn't have to go through this. I think we could do it if it's positive. No, his answer would be yes. Her answer is she's open to it. That doesn't even make sense. If the logic of the hate crime laws in and of itself, meaning if you buy into the logic of the hate crime laws and you make the argument that African Americans or gays should be held into it, then transgender should also be. The notion of protected groups being in statute protected. If you want to argue that African Americans should be under the hate crime statute, then I don't know how you don't add transgender into that also. Meaning the moment that the argument is made for one and the logic is made for one, then the other one also just kind of comes along with it. What is the point of hate crime laws if not to protect groups that are subjected to hate and resentment from a majority, and have that minority protected through law? The moment that you make the argument for African Americans or Hispanics and that these groups should be held in statute and protected. I don't understand how transgender doesn't add into that. It seems like the answer would have just been yes. But Warren couldn't bring herself to answer yes to that. Does Warren not believe that transgenders should be protected under hate crime laws just like other minority groups that are subject and have a history of being subjected to hate and resentment? That answer should have just been yes. Your candidate couldn't put her neck out for transgenders. Sanders has been doing it since the 70s. And you even own up to the fact that he's been doing it since the 70s, since you put it in your tweet. He's never stopped. Your candidate that was a Republican up until the point she was in her 40s, to this day cannot answer this question as yes. Transgenders, if there's a logic for hate crime laws at all, and if you believe in the logic for hate crime laws, then how do you not add transgenders to that? Meaning the LGBTQ community, how do you not add them to the hate crime laws? The moment that you come up with the logic for the statute, you would think that a group that's been maligned and attacked should also be held in that. Why can't Warren say yes to this? And why are you okay with her not being able to say yes to this? Last point. Defend my candidate. Push back on your candidate. And for you to say this, you better be a paragon of virtue on this issue of the LGBTQ community. I mean, you go so far as to say you got the receipts. You got the receipts. You got the receipts. And we have a Make America Great energy. We are toxic. Now, here's the catch. If you are on TYT and you're a Warren supporter and you say something that's negative about Sanders, 4 million people, are on TYT? And in that 4 million people, you might have a small percentage that see you and a smaller percentage still that respond. But because you have so many people that are on, any small percentage will come across as if it's a mob of people. So I give the benefit of the doubt on this. Fair enough. I think that's a fair point. That people who push back, there may be a lot of people that push back and it comes across as a mob of people pushing back. Fair enough. By the same token, you better be a paragon of virtue if you're attacking my candidate, talking about he's not showing up for the LGBTQ community. And what do you know? What do you know? Warren has apparently tied herself to somebody that has some really dubious stuff out there in regards to some of the things that she's been saying about this and the various communities. If this came across somebody who was an archetype Trump voter, you wouldn't be stunned. But for somebody who's sitting on the platform of TYT, a little bit disturbing. Latino and Asian businesses need to stop being rude and fucking disrespectful. And I know a lot to ask for in California, but speak fucking English. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, she said it. There's more. There's a list of these. Look at this. That is the last time I helped that, and I hate to say this, fucker. He's bringing me problems. Truman, help him. That's just bigoted, right? Got the 9 on these motherfuckers. Faggot cocksuckers. Leave them shook like jelly and jam. Smuckers, artists, me, lyricists. You bigot. The Nora, a slimy slut, the kind of bitch that'll fuck face down in a porta potty, the kind of bitch that continue. Wow, this person's out here boosting Warren. I think this girl overdosed. I hope the homegirl doesn't leave with them dudes. Drugged up Asian bitches are a predator's dream. There's more. I love strippers, not in the gay way, but I think they're beautiful, and I think an art in its own way. So, hashtag quit hating. If you could, you would. Sometimes I wish I was Mexican so I could get free healthcare. My premiums are so... Let me say this again. Sometimes I wish I was a Mexican so I could get free healthcare. My premium is so high. Fuck you, Kaiser. There's more. This is the last time I helped that quote-unquote faggot fucker bringing me Trump. Let me see. Just broke my phone on this Asian bitch's head. I have Asian friends, but they're some motherfucking weirdos sometimes. I said it, but we all think it. No, we don't. I don't think Asian people are weird. I made my favorite. I smell Christian's a tranny, careful, and she smokes stress. The whole tranny thing, that sounds a bit, bigoted. This cola has so much fucking makeup on, she looks like a transvestite. Less is best. I don't think you're the person to be making this argument about Sanders not being and backing up the LGBTQ community. Sanders was backing up the community in the 70s by your own depiction, by the 80s, by the Daily Beast depiction, and I could show you Senate stuff in the 90s or House of Representatives and so forth stuff in the 90s and the thousands where he's backing up gays in the legislative front. Your candidate, to this day, cannot just say, yes, the LGBTQ community should be backed up as a protected class like any other class in the moment that any group that's a minority group that has a history of being subjected to hate, it creates the rule in and of itself. And those groups, yes, LGBTQ should be a protected class like any other class that is subjected and has a history of being subjected to hate. Your candidate can't say it. That's a problem, especially running on the left. And going further, we look at stuff that you've said, and I'm sorry, this is rather disturbing commentary. You're not the person to make any case about Sanders. And the case that you made about Sanders is utterly and entirely fanciful. It has nothing to do with reality in and of itself. What I think you need to do is check your candidate. And maybe you need to check yourself in some of these old tweets. And if you are indeed a surrogate for Warren maybe need to think twice about the person who she has stumping for her. You're not the one to make this argument. That's my point. That's my point. TYT has a bigot on their channel, surrogate of Warren, attacking Sanders on the very thing that she has tons of tweets about. I guess my point is she's not the person. She's not the person. And she made this point of talking about she got the receipts. I don't know what receipts you got. My candidate has been backing this group for decades. Yours hasn't. And still can't own up to this notion of backing the group from the standpoint of protecting them against hate crime or hate crime laws. And you have disturbing things that you've said over the past less than, 8 years ago. TYT gives her a platform, and apparently she's a surrogate for Warren. And let me say that. I don't know if she's a technical surrogate for Warren, but she's definitely out there boosting Warren. You better check your candidate. You better check your candidate. Like, share, subscribe. Disturbing.